Humanity had carved out an existence on the desolate rim world of Braxos 4. A barren planet rich in resources but devoid of mercy. The colony was a fragile outpost under the suffocating rule of Xaler Threx, an alien baron of a race that prided itself on ancient lineage and brutal domination. To the baron's people, the Braxos colony was little more than a reminder of humanity's inferiority. For the humans living there, it was a place where survival depended on silence and submission. Alara Carter refused to stay silent. She moved quietly through the shadowed alleys of the settlement, a place where the ground was cracked, and the air carried the metallic tang of machinery. The so-called streets were nothing more than pathways hemmed in by ramshackle buildings, most of them welded together from scraps salvaged from the Baron's garbage heaps. Yet even in this bleak corner of the galaxy, whispers of rebellion simmered beneath the surface, carried on the courage of individuals like Alara. Alara was not a warrior. She wasn't a leader in the traditional sense, nor was she someone who sought the spotlight. What set her apart was an unyielding determination. Before the colony's fall into the Baron's grip, she'd been an engineer, crafting machines that could extract life from Braxos' barren soil. Now she spent her nights dismantling alien tech, reverse engineering whatever scraps she could find to aid the colony's resistance. She worked in secret, knowing full well the penalty for defiance was execution or worse. But Xaler Threx was not the kind of ruler to tolerate even the faintest spark of rebellion. He stood on a platform high above the colony square, his voice amplified by alien technology. The crowd gathered below him not by choice but by command. His crimson robes billowed in the wind, and his 6 eyes glimmered with condescension as he surveyed the humans before him. This year's trial of wits, he declared, shall serve as a lesson to you all. A reminder of the chasm that separates my kind from yours. His voice dripped with disdain, each syllable calculated to remind the humans of their supposed insignificance. Alara stood near the back of the crowd, her jaw clenched. She'd seen the trials before. They were no trials at all, just orchestrated humiliations. Humans were forced to compete in challenges that were impossible to win, their failures serving as entertainment for the Baron and his entourage. She wanted to look away, to leave, but something told her this year would be different. Step forward, Alara Carter. The words froze her in place. She hadn't expected to hear her name, and for a moment, she wondered if she'd imagined it. But the crowd parted, and all eyes fell on her. The Baron's smile widened. Ah yes, the infamous little troublemaker. I've heard whispers of your so-called ingenuity. Let us see if you can match the greatness of my race. Alara stepped forward, her heart pounding. She wanted to lash out, to defy him outright, but she knew better. The Baron's guards, towering figures clad in alien armor, surrounded her as she reached the platform. You've been chosen for a great honor, Xaler sneered. A chance to serve me in a manner befitting your talents. His tone was mocking, his words laced with a cruelty that sent a chill down her spine. What do you mean? Alara asked, forcing her voice to remain steady. Xaler raised a hand, and a holographic display appeared, showcasing a strange device. It pulsed with an unnatural energy, its alien design both beautiful and grotesque. This, he said, is the pinnacle of my people's ingenuity. A tool to mold lesser beings into something useful. You will become a demonstration of its power. The crowd murmured, a wave of unease rippling through them. Alara's stomach turned as she realized what he intended. This wasn't just about humiliating her. It was about erasing her humanity entirely. You can't do this, she said, her voice rising despite herself. I won't. You don't have a choice, Xaler interrupted, his smile widening. You see, I am not merely proving a point to your pitiful colony. I am reminding the galaxy what happens when humans forget their place. The guards seized her, their grip unyielding as they dragged her toward the transport waiting at the edge of the square. The crowd was silent, their expressions a mixture of fear and helplessness. No one dared to intervene. As Alara was forced into the transport, she caught a final glimpse of Xaler. He waved dismissively, already turning his attention to the next part of his twisted spectacle. Let this be a lesson to you all, he called out. In the hands of the strong, the weak have only one purpose: to serve. The doors of the transport slammed shut, and Alara's world plunged into darkness. Her mind raced, fear and fury colliding in equal measure. She had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was certain: she would not let the Baron have the last word. Pain was the first thing Alara noticed. It wasn't sharp or localized, but a deep, consuming agony that radiated through every part of her body. Her muscles felt like they were tearing apart and rebuilding themselves, her bones vibrating with an unnatural hum. She couldn't scream. Her throat was raw, her voice lost somewhere in the haze of torment. Flashes of light swirled before her closed eyes, accompanied by a cacophony of alien sounds she couldn't comprehend. When the pain finally subsided, she opened her eyes to find herself in a dimly lit chamber. Strange machines surrounded her, pulsating with an eerie, rhythmic glow. She tried to sit up but felt a heaviness in her limbs that wasn't there before. Her skin tingled, almost buzzing with energy, and as she raised her hand, she caught sight of faint, glowing lines etched along her forearm. They pulsed faintly, like veins carrying light instead of blood. "What have they done to me?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. The question echoed in the empty room, unanswered. Her memories were fragmented, but pieces of the Baron's cruel words returned. A tool to mold lesser beings, a demonstration of power. She clenched her fists, the glowing lines brightening in response to her anger. The door to the chamber slid open, and an alien technician stepped in. It recoiled slightly upon seeing her awake, muttering something in its guttural language before retreating quickly. A few moments later, Zayler's image appeared in a holographic projection. "Ah, you've awakened," he said, his tone dripping with mockery. "Tell me, how does it feel to transcend your pitiful humanity?" Alara glared at him, but she didn't respond. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. "No gratitude?" Zayler continued. "Typical. You see, Alara, your kind cannot comprehend the gift I've given you. My people have perfected the art of biological enhancement, something your primitive species could never achieve. You are no longer merely human. You are something more." Alara gritted her teeth. "You didn't make me more. You tried to turn me into a puppet." Zayler's laughter echoed through the chamber. "A puppet, yes, but a very useful one. Unfortunately, it seems the process left you a bit too intact. No matter. You'll soon learn your place." The hologram flickered out, leaving her alone once more. Determined to escape, Alara forced herself to stand. Her body felt alien, her movements unsteady, but with each step, she grew more accustomed to the changes. She noticed patterns in her vision, faint outlines of electromagnetic fields emanating from the machines around her. It was as if her mind could sense the technology, almost communicate with it. Driven by instinct, she reached out to the nearest console, her fingers brushing the surface. To her surprise, the machine responded, its interface lighting up as if recognizing her touch. She focused, willing it to reveal its secrets, and the data poured into her mind like water filling a vessel. Schematics, power grids, security protocols, it was all there, accessible in a way she couldn't explain. A noise behind her snapped her attention back to the room. The technician had returned, accompanied by 2 guards. They shouted in their alien tongue, but Alara didn't need to understand the words to know their intent. They moved toward her, weapons drawn. Her body reacted before her mind could process. With a flick of her wrist, the lights in the room surged and then exploded, plunging everything into darkness. The guards hesitated, and in that moment, Alara lunged forward, her enhanced reflexes propelling her faster than she thought possible. She disarmed one guard, his weapon crumbling in her hands as if it recognized her power and submitted to it. The second guard swung at her, but she dodged with unnatural precision, her movements fluid and precise. A burst of energy surged from her hand, sending him crashing into the wall. The technician fled, screaming into a communicator, but Alara was already moving, her newfound abilities guiding her. She navigated the corridors of the facility with ease, her mind intuitively mapping the layout from the data she had absorbed earlier. Along the way, She encountered more guards, but each encounter ended the same. She was faster, stronger, and smarter than any of them. Finally, she reached the outer perimeter of the facility, where a small team from the Resistance waited. They had been tracking her since her abduction, and their faces lit up with relief as she approached. "Alara?" one of them asked, hesitantly. "It's me," she said, though her voice carried a weight it hadn't before. They looked at her, their gazes lingering on the glowing lines on her skin, the way she carried herself now. "What did they do to you?" Alara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned her gaze back to the facility she had just escaped. "They tried to break me," she said finally, "but they gave me the tools to fight back." She raised her hand, focusing on a nearby drone patrolling the area. With a thought, she seized control of it, the machine veering sharply toward her before hovering obediently at her side. She accessed its memory banks, uncovering files the Baron had tried to keep hidden. Among them were plans for an interstellar fleet, ready to subjugate more human colonies. Her hands trembled, not from fear but from the enormity of what she had uncovered. The Baron's experiment had backfired spectacularly. He had tried to strip her of her humanity, but instead, he had made her something he couldn't control. Turning to the Resistance fighters, she said, "We need to move. There's a war coming, and we're going to make sure the Baron regrets every choice he's made." The Resistance was skeptical at first. Alara's transformation was unlike anything they had seen, and many whispered about the risks of trusting someone who had been altered by the enemy. But Alara silenced their doubts by leading the charge in small but crucial operations. She demonstrated her newfound abilities with precision and purpose, proving that she was not only in control of herself, but also an invaluable asset to their fight. It began with dismantling key communication outposts around the colony. The Baron relied on his complex network of drones and satellites to monitor human activity, and Alara made it her mission to take that advantage away. With her ability to interface with alien technology, she bypassed security measures in seconds, feeding false reports and rerouting patrols. The Resistance, once forced to operate in the shadows, found themselves able to move more freely. Alara's leadership extended beyond her powers. She was methodical, using her engineering background to craft devices that amplified their offensive capabilities. She fashioned EMP grenades from salvaged alien parts, devices that could temporarily disable enemy tech, leveling the playing field in skirmishes. She trained others to use the tools she created, ensuring they could fight even if she wasn't present. But the Baron wasn't blind to her actions. His forces grew more aggressive, his orders more desperate. The colony became a battleground as alien troops descended on key locations, determined to stamp out the rebellion once and for all. Alara and the Resistance fought back, and with each victory, their morale soared. In one pivotal mission, Alara led a strike against a heavily fortified supply depot. The Resistance needed the advanced weaponry stored there to stand a chance against the Baron's elite guards. It was a high-risk operation, but Alara's strategy turned the tide. She infiltrated the depot ahead of the main force, using her powers to disable the security systems and turn the automated defenses against their own troops. By the time the Resistance stormed in, the battle was already half won. Word of their success spread among the colony, and more people began to join their cause. Alara became a symbol of hope, a living testament to humanity's resilience. The once dispersed and demoralized colonists now stood united, their eyes fixed on the possibility of freedom. However, the Baron wasn't one to be underestimated. Zayler's arrogance was matched only by his cunning, and he had no intention of allowing a single human to disrupt his plans. He ordered the activation of a planetary lockdown system, cutting off the colony from outside communication and reinforcement. He believed this would isolate the Resistance, forcing them into submission. But Alara saw this as an opportunity. The lockdown required immense energy, leaving the Baron's main control hub vulnerable. She formulated a plan to infiltrate the facility, knowing it was the key to dismantling his grip on the colony. The mission was her most ambitious yet. She led a small team through the barren outskirts of the colony, avoiding patrols and security checkpoints. When they reached the facility, Alara took the lead, her powers guiding them past defenses that would have been impenetrable to anyone else. Inside, the air was thick with tension. The hum of machinery filled the corridors as they advanced, Alara disabling security systems one by one. They encountered resistance, but her team moved like a well-oiled machine, their trust in her absolute. At the heart of the facility, Alara found what she was looking for, a massive terminal that controlled the Baron's planetary systems. She placed her hands on the interface, feeling the flow of data as she worked to override the controls. The process was grueling, the alien systems resisting her intrusion at every turn, but she pushed through, her determination unwavering. As the final barrier fell, Alara initiated a cascade failure that disabled the lockdown and opened a secure communication channel to the Resistance's allies off-world. The Baron's control over the planet was crumbling, and for the first time in years, the colony saw a glimmer of true freedom. But Zaylor wasn't finished. As Alara and her team prepared to leave, a holographic projection of the Baron appeared in the room. His 6 eyes glared at her, his voice filled with fury. "You've proven resourceful," he admitted, "but you are still nothing more than a pest. A spark that I will extinguish." Alara met his gaze, her voice calm but firm. "You should have thought about that before you gave me the tools to fight back." The projection flickered out, but the threat lingered. Alara knew the Baron wouldn't retreat quietly. His fleet was already inbound, and the final confrontation was approaching. As they returned to the Resistance's base, Alara addressed the growing crowd of colonists who had gathered. She spoke with conviction, her words carrying the weight of everything they had endured and the hope of everything they could achieve. "We've taken back control of this planet," she said. "But the fight isn't over. The Baron is bringing his fleet, and he'll stop at nothing to destroy us. But we're ready. We've shown him what humanity is capable of, and now we're going to show the galaxy." The crowd erupted in cheers, their fear replaced by determination. Alara stood at the center, her glowing marks a reminder of what had been done to her, and what she had overcome. She was no longer just an engineer or a victim of the Baron's cruelty. She was a leader, a warrior, and the hope of an entire colony. As they prepared for the battle to come, Alara's resolve hardened. She wasn't just fighting for herself or even the people of Braxos 4. She was fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy, and she would not back down.